So, CE, this was their stomping ground last season. They took teams here anytime they wanted to get a cheeky win, but look at this! All identical win-loss ratios between these two teams. This could not start off any closer. But like we said, last season, CE would sneak teams over here as often as they could, try and get cheeky wins every now and again. This season, it's been leaning a little bit more towards the Braxis holdout and Towers of Doom, but they're always happy to return to their old stomping grounds to try and steal a win.
Exactly, and if you go to Warhead Junction and you play against CE, you need to be on your tippy toes because those guys will go for those early bosses with only 2 or 3 team members. And that's exactly why the Greymane is receiving an immediate ban treatment here, because Greymane has been one of the go-to heroes for Zuyu to do exactly that. Take the support with him and go for those early bosses, and of course you don't want to have Melody C on that Genji, man.
Indeed, the cheeky boss attempts, and here is the Arthas, because the other hero that CE consistently would do this with was Illidan. So you immediately just take something to try and counteract with it. Exactly. And let's see, apparently we might have a Reddit thread now, because mine was taken down. There we go, mid-seasons, saving the day. There is now a Reddit thread about this game. We want as many people in here as possible, because the stakes have never been higher, like cows on marijuana.
That would be a very, very scary sight to behold. I can only imagine that being topped up by chickens on the exact same organic material. Don't want to repeat that.
Yes.
Want to keep it clean, want to keep it simple here. Now, there is a couple of other choices CE could go for here to execute the same style, basically. Now, they could go for the Illidan, they could go for the likes of Karazim as well, and then booyah, you got the early boss clear potential. Even Artanis could work, although it's not as, you know, popular these days.
Yeah. So, we're seeing the Dahaka for that global soak potential. Illidan, Tassadar, straight away. SPT looking to maybe steal a little bit of CE strategy here.
Yeah, absolutely. The Illidan early on the side of SPT is a strong statement. They're like, we have watched your games in the past and we have learned from it. We can execute the exact same style that you were going for in the past and we can use it against you. We can make you taste your own medicine. And despite Illidan not having the best win rate ever, he has been performing very, very well on this battleground in particular because of the hunt.
Yes, they do. He is able to global so well. It allows him to backdoor very well, because dropping a nuke, you burn through the shield, and then Illidan can just go to work. He's one of the scariest heroes on this map due to this.
Exactly, and the Tassadar, of course, synergizes so well with the Illidan. It works perfectly fine. The life leech gets enhanced. The mobility it provides if you go for Kala's celerity. You know, you never know what you can expect, but it's going to be most likely the Kala's Embrace with increased self-sustain. Now, what do you do against an Illidan? There's a couple of options available. You can go for blinds, you can go for silences, or just straight up stuns. So far, CE doesn't really have a lot of those, and they even banned the Uther because apparently they don't want to pick it themselves, and they're worried about the Divine Shield if they let it go through.
Yeah, it's a bit too scary. A Divine Shield is a bit too scary to deal with. They already have the Rhaegar. SPT, though, thinking about banning the Brightwing. They are scared of the double support. And they do. Okay, they've done a little bit of research. CE have done a double support, including Brightwing, just recently.
Exactly, and Alufal, as good of a player he is, he's not been known for his regular play. Like, I can't remember the last time he actually played the Shaman, so they were kind of afraid that Alufal might still go for support and they would have to face double support after all. And Brightwing, of course, is the surging, rising hero that Alufal spreads throughout China like a disease. And on Warhead Junction, I would definitely argue say that Brightwing is the most useful one.
Yeah,
best bet
I would
for
agree. Indeed, having a global support, always nice when you have nukes that get so much value and important to take. So, let's see what CE are going to pick up. They still need range. Cassia is still available for them. And with Ariel not actually banned, they could easily just double support Cassia, but they don't. They go for Li Ming and they go for Tychus.
Yep, That they do, and this is a little bit of a deviation here, a little bit of a change of plans here for CE. It's not the go-to standard that we're used to. Of course, we know that Zuyu is a terrifying mage player in general. Like, his Chromie, hands down, has been the most convincing one in the league, and we also know that KTY, the guy you see in the bottom right here in the webcam, has been a stellar Tychus player. And Tychus, you know, is still one of the old school counters to Illidan, because he can basically switch his damage all the way to ability damage all the time. The spray and pray, the grenades, even the laser can be an option here.
Yeah, and we do see the final 2 picks for SPT going to be Ariel and Valor. So they have that double support Ariel with the Illidan for that global potential and Arthas as their main frontline. Very solid draft for Super Perfect Team. Nothing's hugely standout except for a little bit the Illidan for that global potential and, of course, those sneaky boss attempts if they wish to try them. Now, CE. They need a more main tank. It's very unlikely they're going to run the solo tank Dahaka. So what can we use here? In terms of ones with auto-attack slows, Muradin is all of those left, outside of tanks that can take imposing presence later on. Or you can, I guess, take someone with parry who just blocks the auto attacks.
I'm getting mad man tingles right now because Varian, my baby boy, has been locked in. And while he's not, you know, the classic Illidan counter like a Muradin or like a Johanna could even be, he's still very solid against what SPT brought to the table. He has the Mortal Strike, which denies a lot of the healing, self-healing included by Illidan, and of course they can lock a target down very, very well with a taunt. I don't think we're going to see any other build coming in here for SPT, for CE, excuse me. I do have to say though, despite the variant, that overall I think there's hardly any weaknesses on the side of SPT. Their draft just looks so well-rounded, don't you think, Tetcher?
I really both the drafts look very well-rounded, but SPT's is just everything they have ever wanted, basically. They've got the double support, they have Illidan, they have all the tools.
Yeah. They've got all the tools indeed. They can play around the map, they can send Illidan on the solo lane against the Dahaka, which especially after level 10 is going to be a very favorable matchup for Illidan because he can always follow where Dahaka goes. All he needs is the hunt. He needs to get a little bit closer because it's not a true global pre-20 yet, but it should normally be fast enough to really join the nick of time. But ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the final series of the day to determine who's going to become China's #1 at the Eastern Clash. Alright, and we're being deployed to Warhead Junction. On the left-hand side, the team that seeks to steal the crown from CE, it is SPT, and they're being represented by Huanzhao on the Vala. Melody C plays Tassadar, Misaka on the Arthas, Wings on Illidan, and ZZH plays Oriel.
Whereas on the right-hand side, our current HGC China champions challenge everything. With Alufal on Rhaegar, Wind on Varian, KGY on Tychus, Paradise on Dahaka, and Zuyu is playing the Li Ming.
Oh boy.
This is game #1 on the wonderful Warhead Junction. And we have Varian again going for that same Lion's Fang.
Yeah, Lion's Maw, excuse me. Once again.
That's the one, sorry.
Really, really interesting to see that. I mean, you go Lion's Maw, we talked about this in the previous set, when you need additional lockdown, when you want to rely on your spell damage a little bit more than your auto attacks. And I kind of don't understand here in particular because you have Tassadar on the enemy team. If you go for overpower at level 1, you're guaranteed to get those empowered heroic strikes over and over again because every tiny damage dealt by the tickle beam will reset your heroic strike, and that can be strong with a mortal strike at 13. So Tetra, I remain even more skeptical than I was in the first game. Hold on, Wings here. Getting left,
Wings taking a lot of damage. The Lion's Maw can add a little bit to the burst damage for starters if you can stack it properly, and it also adds to wave clear technically, so you can get a little bit of value. And of course, you're going to be using it very often to deny the nukes if you are in that area at any time. So if you're going to do that, you might as well try and get some damage out of it. I agree with you that the empowered heroic strikes more consistently would be good, but the odds of Tassadar focusing Varian are actually quite low.
But even against the Illidan, who also attacks very swiftly, it would gain additional value. So, with the guaranteed heroic strike reset after taunting someone with overpower gone out of the way. Hold on, Tassadar in trouble. Melody C makes it out alive. No, the grenade secures first blood. Well played by KTY. Really solid. But once again, to basically continue my thought process, I think at level 13 we might actually get to see Shattering Throw. If they don't bank on the guaranteed proc of Mortal Strike, they might as well go Shattering Throw, which is very good against Tassadar too.
It is very good against Tassadar. You could get the Mortal Strike can gain value against not just Tassadar though, or whoever Tassadar's shielding. It can gain. Everyone has some kind of self regen.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
Arthas and Illidan, for example. So very much up to how they feel about it. Misaka trying to zone out a Luful, who is not in the best position, but he's able to pull back behind Varian. Good route as Tassadar continues to drop damage. Here's KTY though, and that minigun will be enough to drive back Misaka, and they should be able to take this nuke, whereas SPT have already grabbed the one from the bottom lane.
Exactly, SPT already owning one warhead. I like the healing totem call here as well. Healing them consistently, but they're just getting pressured and bullied away. A grenade really to buy a couple more seconds, but I don't think they can do it.
Yeah, Li Ming came up to try and interrupt, was too slow, turns around, heads back down the bot. So both nukes in the start of this game going over to SPT.
It's a really, really big advantage already for SPT. Now, let's see if they're going to use it right away or if they're going to save them a little bit for later. Both approaches are valid here, of course, but they use it to get this early XP. Zuyu actually falling victim here as well. Zhang Zhao and ZZH here making sure that Li Ming ends up falling, and another nuke actually doesn't reach the towers. I think it was straightly aimed for the fort here, so...
Yeah, they're going to get through the towers no matter what.
Exactly.
Valor and Ariel have basically infinite sustain, so they can just up, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to be able to take down the towers. There's no ammo, so why burn the nuke when you're going to kill it anyway, and it's not going to kill your minions. So they're moving in, weakening the fort, and setting up for what could be the first fort of the game.
Yeah, bottom lane definitely exposed here by C, and it looks like they're getting surprised by the speed and momentum that SPT brought to the table here in this first game. Normally CE is the team that sets the pace, that sets the tone on how to play on Word Junction, but so far, not really much to be seen here. Varian goes for the level 7, for the level 4 shield wall. Let's see if we're going to see a live by the sword. I don't think we're going to see any fancy oddities here on the Varian build, but just to make sure, we're going to take a special look at the talents in a bit.
It's parry or maybe second win, but second win's going to get actually less value because Illidan. So it is most likely, yeah, there you go. Full parry build outside of the queue for extra wave clear and poke potential.
Exactly. Once again, we see a Resonation for Tassadar, applying additional slows with his auto attack as long as people stand in his Size Storm, which of course can get much more value after level 16 when he gets Double Storm, basically having a guaranteed improved slow here. For now, both mercenary camps in the top lane, both cruiser camps have been taken, and Paradise is a little bit of trouble, gets reinforced by Luful now.
Yes, he does. Luful trying to drop some damage onto Wings, who was maybe a little bit too greedy here. They're trying to get onto him. Is there a drag available? No, they're having to retreat once again. Too much healing, thanks to those shields and his own self-sustain, and that's forcing them to retreat. And the fort is now under serious pressure.
I mean, Wings can afford to play this aggressively and discreetly because A, he has Tassadar behind him, the life leech is insane, and B, the mercenaries and minions are absorbing enough of those fort shots. He doesn't have to worry about them in the process. So despite the valiant effort by CE, they still have to give up this fort sooner or later. In the meantime, they also lost the bottom fort. So look at how SPT is skyrocketing ahead here in this early game in terms of XP. It's crazy.
Yeah. They're heading straight towards their level 10s, whereas CE have not even reached their level 9s yet. But hopefully they can sustain through. For now, here are the level 10s. The Army of the Dead, the Hunt, and everyone else is holding back. Thank you, Ariel. I was about to say, if you're holding back, then something is very strange, but it is going to be the Crystal Aegis. There's the Strafe. And what are we going to see from Tassadar? He's got actually a good amount of variation. Force 4 is very good against Varian.
Yeah, I think he's actually going to wait for a little bit longer here if he really wants to make a decision depending on what Heroic CE chooses in the end. As you said, both heroic abilities are fine for Tassadar. Arkan probably a little bit more towards team fighting, whereas the Force Wall can be used both offensively and defensively depending on what the enemy team brings to the table. And he's in fact going to wait a little bit longer, Melody C that is. In the meantime, SPT going for the first boss of the game. They have every right to do so. They've got 3 nukes in their possession. They have the level 10s available, and CE doesn't even try to get their own boss in the top lane. They're desperately trying to reach level 10 as quickly as possible.
Very slow.
Yeah,
they're
they started
very slow. Dahaka and Rhaegar looked like they were trying to start it. They've decided to against it now that this bottom boss has been taken, because they need Rhaegar at least needs to come down and defend. Dahaka can stay top if he wishes. Nuke already being dropped by Wings. SPT looking to snowball here, but level 10 is now available for CE. We have Taunt, the Commandeer, Odin, the Disintegrate, Isolation. Rhaegar's holding, but it's almost certainly going to be Ancestral, because what value is Bloodlust going to get with Ming?
They're paving the way here, using 2 out of 3 nukes already to get rid of those pesky towers and make short process here of that bottom keep. In the meantime, though, CE going for the Hail Mary teamfight.
They're focusing on the Bloodlust. They're going straight through. H is still surviving. He gets taken out. It's 1-for-1. Rhaegar already destroyed here. Li Ming is getting chased down on her own base. The Odin is shredding through here. It's 3-for-2 right now. Li Ming is still alive. Illidan is in the backline, and Arthas is still tanking through. Moving on. Wind is dropping low. Protected by the weight. No, he gets taken out. It's just Paradise, who looks like he will kill Illidan. I can't tell because lag. Illidan survive! Kill. The boss is still alive. It's Rhaegar versus Misaka, but Alufal will be able to move in and defend the boss, but the keep goes down.
The keep goes down, and that is all that SPT could have ever dreamed about. 7 minutes and 45 seconds into the game, and the bottom lane lies naked. And on Warhead Junction, if you lose a keep, that is so detrimental to your future core health, because 1, 2, maybe even 3 nukes is definitely going to be enough to just rush in and destroy that core. Combine that with a boss in the future, maybe even just mercenary camps, and you're going to find yourselves in a lot of trouble if you're CE here. They tried to go for their early team fight. I like the Bloodlust call, by the way. It was basically their way of securing a guaranteed team fight, and a Bloodlusted Odin, by the way, is one hell of a damage tool.
Really good. Li Ming just being a huge distraction, just forcing Illidan to chase the entire time. That was full chaos, but CE, using that, have been able to at least slightly stabilize. They're still a level and a bit behind, but they didn't die there, and there was a very small opportunity, chance that they could have just lost the game there.
Exactly. If they had like a full team wipe without anyone of SPT dying, it would have been game over right there. Now, Zuyu, of course, there is always the chance of Li Ming falling into this crazy resets frenzy, right? The moment you give 1 kill to Zuyu, he's gonna tear your team apart. So that's definitely something SPT needs to keep in mind. They must not get ahead of themselves.
Yeah, Wind taking it. Vala has already got the one in the bot lane and is coming up to help her team. And once again, SPT might be able to just take both nukes here if CE aren't careful. Either way, CE just about to hit level 13. Talent's even, so this is a full team fight of anything. Nuke is dropped to clear the lane and zone out Paradise. He has to burrow to dodge it. Force wall to zone him. He drags in Vala. Here's the Bloodlust and the hunt into the back line. Paradise is dropping low, but Wings is shredding and distracting. Paradise is still alive, finally taken out. He is the first kill in the fight as KTY is trying to do the damage, but the healing is too much from SPT, and we will see a Luful go down, likely Zuyu as well. Tychus dropped by the Force Wall, and that is full shredderation, 4-for-0 in that one.
Absolute annihilation here. SPT just dominated that team fight so well. I gotta criticize CE a little bit here though as well. I think KTY was way too slow in the Odin here. The Bloodlust got popped in way before he could ever pull the trigger, and as such lost a couple of precious seconds before he got those quick auto attacks in. And then of course Paradise, in a little bit of an unfortunate spot here, survived for a very long time, so good job to him, but in the end it was not enough, and SPT came out swinging in this game, secured themselves another boss. And in the bottom lane, of course, they had to defend as well, CE that is, and with 1 nuke and the boss, they may actually go for the second keep of the game.
CE have their backs to the wall. They are behind the talent again. SPT with those kills hit level 16. With a boss pushing in and a nuke available, they can put some huge pressure onto this. Great damage onto the Tassadar there. Everyone else able to survive. But this is bad news for CE. Remember, if they lose a single game in this series, they cannot take first. They need to win both. So CE, right up against it now. The boss taking some poke damage. Alufal getting
he cannot
to
die. He dies.
There's the bloodlust as he dies, as they try to shred through using the last remaining help that Rhaegar gave them, trying to burn through. But Wings is too tanky. Down goes Paradise, down goes Varian, and SPT moving on to the core. They will be our Phase 2, our Summer Championship HGC China champions. And they still got a game to go.
They still got a game to go, so all hop aboard the SPT hype train because they are your new Chinese champions of Phase 2. It was a quickie. It was not as long as we may have expected it to be. CE falling apart under the pressure, and it proves to be once again the case that SPT is the one poison that CE just cannot cure. It's the third time in a row they lost the first game. They lost in Phase 1, 3-2, and they lost. They played 1-1 in Phase 1 as well. So, what's just happening, Tetcher? What is going on? CE. That's not the CE I know.
Yeah, I don't even know. That was... Either way, they weren't able to do it. They tried a Hail Mary. They tried a Bloodlust. They tried to just turn it around as they were losing stuff in the early game. Didn't work out in their favor. Lufal was focused down too hard, and that was GG. So, SPT are our champions. The question is, can they make it look easy at this point?
Ooh. I mean, right now, it's all about CE defending their honor. If they go down 0-2 in another quick game like the first one, I think their reputation as one of the strongest teams in China, maybe even in the world, will take some serious damage. For them, it's now to salvage the situation. Don't go down without at least putting up a good fight. Maybe take this to a 1-1. Do it for the fans, do it for your own reputation, and just don't disappoint us. I really think CE was outdrafted heavily. SPT just had everything they wanted. They had a super well-rounded comp. Illidan, Vala, double support, Arthas. The greatest counter that CE could have gone for was picked first. I just love the way Misaka and his boys were commanding this draft.